In this lesson on Python OOPS, we will learn about methods. So what are methods? Methods are a function, or a method is a function that is associated with an object. So a function that is defined within a class is known as a method. Let's look at some examples to understand it better. So here we have a class student that we had defined in the lesson on constructors. It has the initializer which is taking those two parameters n1 and a1, and then what we have done is we have added this method. So this method named display. Self means itself, the same thing as we saw it in the case of the constructor. And what this method is doing is it's printing self.name and it's printing self.age. So both the attributes of the class student this method is printing. So how do we use it? Let's look at it. So here we have first declared st1 is equal to student James comma 27. So st1 will get created as an object of type student and it will have the values James comma 27. So James will be what? Name, and 27 will be age. Then we are saying st1 dot display without a parameter. So we are calling the method display or for the object st1, which means we are calling this method here. So this method display we are calling here, and now what will happen? We have called it with the object st1. So it will say print self.name. So print self.name would do, it will print James, and print self.age will print 27. So why did it print James and age for James and 27 for name and age when we did self.name and self.age? Because we called it with the object st1, and for the object st1 name was James and age was 27. Now what have we done here? We have created another student st2 with the parameters Beth and 28. So st2 will be an object of type student and its values for the attributes are Beth and 28. So now when we do st2.display, we are calling this method display again, and we are calling it with what? We are calling it with the object st2. So now when we do print self.name, so self.name will refer to the object st2. So what is name in st2? It is Beth. So Beth is getting printed, and when it says print self.age, 28 will get printed. So here we have defined a method named display and we were able to use it. Let's look at another example. So here we have the class course that we had declared earlier, which had a constructor which took three parameters n1, t1, d1. And what are we defining? We're defining a method details which does not take any parameter, self refers to itself, and which will print the name, tech and duration. So let us see how this will work. So here we are declaring C1 is equal to course data science Python 4. So C1 will now be an object of type course. So C1 is an object of type course and it will have data science Python and 4. So data science will correspond to name, Python will correspond to tech, and 4 will correspond to duration. Now when we are saying c1.details means we are calling this method details. So what will it do? It will say print self.name. Now what is self? Self is referring to c1. So c1.name would be data science. So data science colon tech is Python. So this will get printed, and then it's saying print self.duration, which is 4. So 4 will get printed. Then we are saying we are creating a course C2 with the parameters big data Python 3. So C2 will be an object of type course with big data Python and 3. So big data will correspond to the attribute name, Python will correspond to the attribute tech, and 3 will correspond to the attribute duration. So when we say c2.details, so the method details is being called for the object c2. So now when we say print self.name, now self here is referring to c2. So what we'll get is big data colon Python, and when we in the next line say print self.duration means 3 will get printed. So here again we were able to create a method and use it. Let's look at one more example. So here we have defined a class named point. This point has a constructor which is taking two parameters x1 and y1, and the default values for these parameters are 0, 0, and it's initializing the attributes or the fields it has x and y with the values x1, y1. So we have point which has x, y. Then we have declared a method named add, which again takes two parameters x1 and y1 which have been given the default value 0, and it's saying self.x is equal to self.x plus x1 and self.y is self.y plus y1. So it is adding those parameters in. And then we have another method print point which is printing the details of the point. So in this class we had the constructor and we have defined two more methods, add and print point. Let's see how we will use it. So we are saying p1 is equal to 0.35, which means we'll end up calling this constructor and x will get the value 3 and y will get the value 5. So p1 is an object of type point and it will have 3 and 5. So x will get the value 3 and y will get the value 5. Then we are saying p1 dot print pt. So which means we are calling this method print pt for the object p1. So now when we start doing it, so print, so it will start printing brackets, then str self.x. So self.x will be 3, str because it's a number, so it will convert it, so 3, then a comma, then str self.y which means 5, and so we have been able to print the point successfully. Then it's saying p1 dot add 1010. So p1 dot add 1010 means we are calling this method add for the object p1. So self.x is equal to self.x plus x1. x1 was 10. What is self.x? It is 3. So 3 plus 10 is 13. So this has become 13 here. And similarly self.y has become 15. Now it's saying p1 dot print pt. So p1 dot print pt or print the point, and when we print it, what we will get is 13, 15 will get printed on the screen. Then we are saying p1 dot add 5. So p1 dot add 5 means this method is being called, and we can call it with one parameter because default values have been specified. So what is getting the value 5? x1. So what will happen in this case? Self.x will become self.x plus x1 which is 18. Self.y will be self.y plus y1. y1 is 0, so it will remain the same. And now when we print it, what will get printed on the screen is 18, 15. So here we declared two methods and we were able to successfully use them.